Job chapter 36, Elihu magnifies the Almighty. Then Elihu says further, "Be patient with me a bit longer, and I will show you that there is more to say on God's behalf. I get my knowledge from afar. I ascribe righteousness to my Maker, for truly my words are not false. One who is perfect in knowledge is with you. Indeed, God is mighty, but despises none. He is mighty in strength of understanding. He does not keep the wicked alive, but gives justice to the afflicted. He does not take his eyes from the righteous, but enthrones them with kings and exalts them forever. But if they are bound in chains and held captives by cords of affliction, then he declares to them their deed, that they have transgressed arrogantly. That they have transgressed arrogantly, and he opens their ear to instruction and commands that they turn from evil. If they obey and serve, they will end their days in prosperity and their years in happiness. But if they do not listen, they will perish by the sword and die without knowledge. The godless in heart harbor anger. They do not cry for help. Even when he binds them, their souls die in youth. Their life ends among cult prostitutes. He delivers the afflicted by his affliction and opens their ear in oppression. And indeed, he will draw you from the mouth of distress to a spacious place without constraint, and the comfort of a table full of rich food. But you are full of judgment on the wicked. Judgment and justice take hold of you. Beware lest wrath entice you with riches, or a large bribe turn you aside. Will your wealth sustain you to keep you from distress, or even all your mighty efforts? Do not long for the night when people vanish from their places. Be careful, do not turn to iniquity, for you have chosen this rather than affliction. Indeed, God is exalted in his power, who is a teacher like him, who has prescribed his way for him, or said, you have done wrong. Remember to magnify his work, of which people have sung. All of mankind have seen it. People gaze on it from afar. Behold, God is exalted beyond our knowledge. The number of his years is unsearchable, for he draws up the drops of water. They distill rain into its mists, which the clouds pour down and shower mankind abundantly. Indeed, who can understand the spreading of the clouds and the thunder from his pavilion? See how he scatters his lightning about him, covering the depths of the sea. For by these he judges peoples and supplies food in abundance. He covers his hand with lightning and commands it to strike its target. His thunder declares his presence, the cattle too about what is coming. Job chapter 37. At this my heart trembles and leaps from its place. Then listen carefully to the roar of his voice, the rumbling that comes from his mouth. Under the whole heaven he lets it loose, and his light to the ends of the earth. After that a voice roars. He thunders with his majestic voice. He does not hold them back when his voice is heard. God thunders wondrously with his voice. He does great things beyond our comprehension. For to the snow he says, fall to the earth, and to the torrential rain be a mighty downpour of rain. He stills the hand of every man, so that all men will know his work. The animals go into their lairs, they remain in their dens. Out of its chamber comes the storm, and icy cold from the driving wind, from the breath of God. Frost is made, and the watery expanse freezes. He loads the clouds with moisture. He scatters his cloud of lightning. It swirls around by his guidance to do whatever he commands on the face of the inhabited world. Whether it is a rod of punishment, or for his land, or for loving kindness, he causes it to happen. Listen to this, Job. Stand and consider God's wonders. Do you know God orders them and makes the lightning flash in his cloud? Do you know the balancing of clouds, the wonders of him who has perfect knowledge? You, whose clothes are hot when the earth is still because of the sound wind, can you with him stretch out the skies, strong as a mirror of molten metal? Teach us what to say to him. We cannot prepare a case because of the darkness. Should he be informed that I want to speak? If a man speaks, would he be swallowed up? But now they do not see the light, bright as it is in the skies, until the wind has passed and cleared the clouds away. Out of the north he comes in golden splendor. Around God is awesome majesty. Shaddai, we cannot find him. He is great in power and justice and abundant in righteousness. He does not oppress, therefore people fear him. He does not regard all the wise of the heart. Job chapter 38. Word out of the whirlwind. Then Adonai answered Job out of the whirlwind. He said, who is this? Who darkens counsel with words without knowledge? Now gird up your loins like a man. I will question you, and you will inform me where you were when I laid the foundations of the earth. Tell me if you have understanding. Who set its dimensions? If you know, or who stretched a line over it? On what were its foundations set, or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy, and who shut up the sea behind the doors when it burst from forth from the womb, when I made its clouds a garment? When I made a cloud its garments, and thick darkness its swaddling cloth. When I prescribed my boundary for it and set bars and gates, when I said, this far you may come, but no farther, here your majestic waves will stop. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning or caused dawn to know its place, that it would take hold of the corners of the earth and shake the wind out of it? It changes shape like clay under a seal, and they stand out like those of a garment. And from the wicked their light is withheld, and the upraised arm is broken. Have you gone to the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Have you seen the gates of the deepest darkness? Have you comprehended the expanses of the earth? If you know it all, declare it. In what direction does light dwell? In darkness, where is this place that you can take to its borders and discern the paths to its home? Surely you know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of snow, or seen the storehouses of hail, which I reserve for a time of distress, for a day of battle and war? In what direction is light distributed or the east wind scattered over the earth? Who cuts a channel for the flood and a path for the thunderstorm, to cause it to rain on an uninhabited land, a desert with no one in it, to satisfy a devastated and desolate land and cause it to sprout grain? Does the rain have a father, or who has birthed the drops of dew? From whose womb comes the ice? Who gives birth to the frost of heaven? When the waters hide like stone and the surface of the deep is frozen, can you bind the chains of Pleiades, or loosen the belt of Orion? Do you bring out the constellations in their season, or guide the bear with her cubs? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you set up dominion over the earth? Can you raise your voice to the clouds and cover yourself with an abundance of water? Can you send out lightning bolts so they go? Will they say to you, here we are? Who put wisdom in the secret place, or gave understanding to the mind? Who can count the clouds by wisdom, or tip over the water jars of heaven when dust hardens into a mass and the clods of earth stick together? Do you hunt prey for the lioness, or satisfy the hunger of young lions when they crouch in their dens or lie in wait in the thicket? Who arranges provision for the raven when its young cry out to God and wander about for lack of food? Job 39. Do you know when the mountain goats give birth? Do you observe the calving doe? Do you count the months they fulfill? And do you know the time when they give birth, when they kneel, bring forth their young, and their labor pains end? Their young thrive and grow strong in the open field. They leave and never return to them. Who set the wild donkey free? Who released the bonds of the wild ass? To whom I gave the Arabah and it as its home, so salt and land as its dwelling place. It scorns the commotion in the town. It does not hear the taskmaster's shout. It explores the mountain as its pasture and searches after every green thing. Is a wild ox willing to serve you? Will it spend the night at your manger? Will you bind a wild ox to a furrow with his rope? Will it plow the valleys behind you? Will you rely on it for its great strength? Will you leave your labor to it? Can you trust to bring it in your seed and gather it to your threshing floor? The wings of the ostrich flap joyously, but they are pinions and plumage of a stork. For she leaves her eggs on the ground and lets them warm in the soil, and forgets that a foot may crush them, that a wild beast may trample them. She treats her young ones harshly as if they were not hers. She is not concerned that her labor was in vain, for God did not endow her with wisdom or give her a share of understanding. When she lifts herself to flee, she laughs at the horse and its rider. Do you give the horse its strength? Do you clothe his neck with a mane? Do you cause him to leap like a locust? His majestic snorting is terrifying. His paws in the valley, and exulting in his strength, he charges into the fray. He laughs at fear and is not dismayed. He does not recoil from the sword. On him the quiver rattles, the spear and javelin flash with quaking and excitement. He swallows up the ground. He cannot stand still. When the shofar sounds, at the blast of the shofar, he says, "Aha!" From a distance he smells battle, the shouts of the captains and the battle cry. It is by your wisdom that the hawk soars, spreading its wings toward the south. It is by your command that an eagle soars and builds its nest high. It dwells on a cliff and spends the night there on a rocky crag and stronghold. From there it searches for food. Its eyes detect it from afar. Its young one sucks up blood, and where the slain are, there it is. Job chapter 40. Insignificant before God. Then Adonai answered Job, saying, will the one who connects with Shaddai correct him? Let him who accuses God answer. Then Job answered Adonai. He said, indeed, I am unworthy. What can I reply to you? I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer twice. But I will say no more. Then Adonai answered Job from the whirlwind. Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you will inform me. Would you really annul my judgment? Would you condemn me to justify yourself? Do you have an arm like God's? And can you thunder with a voice like his? Then adorn yourself in majestic majesty and dignity. Clothe yourself in splendor and honor. Scatter the fury of your anger. Look at every proud person and bring him low. Look at everyone who is proud and humble him. Tread Tread down the wicked where they stand, hide them together in the dust, bind their faces in the hidden place. Then I, even I, will acknowledge to you that your own right hand can save you. Behemoth and Leviathan. Look now at Behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. Now look at the strength in his loins, and his power in the muscles of his belly. He stiffens his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. His limbs are like rods of iron. He is first among the ways of God. Let his maker draw near with his sword, for the mountains bring him food, and all the wild animals play there. Under the lotus plants he lies down. In the secrecy of the reeds and marsh, the lotuses conceal him in their shade. The willows of the brook surround him. If the river rages, he is not alarmed. He is secure, even though the Jordan surges against his mouth. Can anyone capture it by his eyes, or pierce his nose with hooks? Can you pull in Leviathan with a hook, or tie down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a reed rope in the nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make supplications to you, or speak softly to you? Will he make a covenant with you, so that you can take him as a slave forever? Can you play with him like a bird, or put him down on a leash for your girls? Will traders barter for him? Will they divide him among the merchants? Can you fill his hide with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? If you lay your hands on him, you will remember the battle and never do it again. Job chapter 41. See, his hope is wrong. He is laid low. Even the sight of him, is he not fierce when he is aroused? When he is roused? Who then is able to stand before me? Who has confronted me that I should repay? Everything under the heavens belongs to me. I will not keep silent about his limbs or his might or the grace of his arrangement. Who can strip off his outer garment? Who can penetrate his double armor? Who can open the doors of his face ringed with fearsome teeth? His rows of shields are his pride, shut up closely as with a tight seal, each so close to the next that no air can pass between. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. He sneezes out flashes of light. His eyes are like the eyelids of dawn. Out of his mouth go flames. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours from his nostrils as a boiling pot over burning reeds. His breast sets coals ablaze, and flames dart from his mouth. Strength resides in his neck. Dismay runs before him. The folds of his flesh are tightly joined. They are firm on him, immovable. His heart is hard as rock, hard as a lower millstone. When he rises up, the mighty are afraid. At his crashing they retreat. A sword that reaches him has no effect, nor with a spear, dart, or javelin. He regards iron as straw, bronze as rotten wood. Arrows do not make him flee. Sling stones become like chaff to him. A club is regarded as stubble. He laughs at the rattling of a lance. His undersides are jagged potsherds, leaving a small trail like a thrusting sledge in mud. He makes the deep boil like a cauldron and stirs up the sea like a pot of ointment. He leaves a shining wake behind him, one who would think the deep had white hair. Nothing on dry land is his equal, a creature without fear. He sees every haughty thing. He is king over all who are proud. Job chapter 42. Job retracts. Job answered Adonai and said, I know you can do all things. No purpose of yours can be thwarted. You ask, who is this? Who darkens counsel without knowledge? Surely I spoke without understanding things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. You said, hear now, and I will speak. I will question you, and you will inform me. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye has seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent on dust and ashes. Job restored. After Adonai had spoken these words to Job, Adonai said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my anger is kindled against you and against your two friends, because you have not spoken about me what is right, like my servant Job has. So now take for yourself 7 young bulls and 7 young rams, and go to my servant Job and offer a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, for I will accept Job's prayer and not deal with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken correctly about me like my servant Job. So Eliphaz and the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite went and did what Adonai told them, and Adonai accepted Job's prayer. So Adonai restored what Job had lost after he prayed for his friends, and Adonai doubled everything that Job had before. Then all his brothers, all his sisters, and everyone who had known him before came to him and ate bread with him in his house. They consoled him and comforted him for all the calamity that Adonai had brought upon him. Each of them gave him a piece of money and a gold ring. So Adonai blessed Job's latter days more than at the beginning. He had 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 female donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He called the name of the first Jemima, the name of the second Keziah, the name of the third Karen Happuch. Nowhere in the land were there found women as beautiful as the daughters of Job. Their fathers gave them as an inheritance along with their brothers. After this, Job lived 140 years. He saw his children and their children for 4 generations, and so Job died, old and full of days.